नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So it's a long weekend and still all of you have taken that extra effort to come and see Shishi Radha Gopinath, which is very, very pleasing to their lordships. So today we are reading from Canto 4 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 11, text number 22. So please repeat. Kechit karma vadantyenam Kechit karma vadantyenam Swabhavam aparendripa Swabhavam aparendripa Eke kalam pare daivam Eke kalam pare daivam Pumsaha kamamutapare Pumsaha kamamutapare Kechit karma vadantyenam Swabhavam aparendripa Eke kalam pare daivam Pumsaha kamamutapare. Prabhus. Kechit karma vadantyenam Swabhavam aparendripa Eke kalam pare daivam Pumsaha kamam utapare. Swabhavam aparendripa Eke kalam pare daivam Pumsa kamam utapare. Vaishnavis. Kechit karma vadantyenam swabhavam aparendrapa eke kalam pare daivam pumsa kamam utapare. Kechit karma vadantyenam swabhavam aparendrapa eke kalam pare daivam pumsa kamam utapare. Let's look at the word-to-word meaning. Kechit, some, karma, fruitive activities, vadanti, explain, enam, that, swabhavam, nature, apare, others, nripa, my dear King Dhruva, eke, some, kalam, time, pare, others, daivam, fate, pumsaha, of the living entity, kamam, desire, uta, also, apare, others. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: the differentiation among varieties of life and their suffering and enjoyment is explained by some to be the result of karma. Others say it is due to nature, others due to time, others due to fate, and still others say that it is due to desire. Purport: there are different types of philosophers: Mimamsakas, atheists, astronomers, sexualists, and so many other classifications of mental speculators. The real conclusion is that it is our work only that binds us within this material world in different varieties of life. How these varieties have sprung up is explained in the Vedas. It is due to the desire of the living entity. The living entity is not a dead stone. He has different varieties of desire or kama. The Vedas say kamo karshit. The living entities are originally parts of the Lord, like sparks of a fire, but they have dropped to this material world attracted by a desire to lord it over nature. That is a fact. Every living entity is trying to lord it over the material resources to the best of his ability. This karma or desire cannot be annihilated. There are some philosophers who say that if one gives up his desires, he again becomes liberated. But it is not at all possible to give up desire, for desire is a symptom of the living entity. If there were no desire, then the living entity would be a dead stone. Srila Narottam Das Thakur therefore advises that one turn his desire towards serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then desires become purified. And when one's desires are purified, one becomes liberated from all material contamination. The conclusion is that the different philosophers' theories to explain the varieties of life and their pleasure and pain are all imperfect. The real explanation is that we are eternal servants of God, and that as soon as we forget this relationship, we are thrown into the material world, where we create our different activities and suffer or enjoy the result. We are drawn into this material world by desire, but the same desire must be purified and employed in the devotional service of the Lord. Then our disease of wandering in the universe under different forms and conditions will end. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Let's do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Bhunityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhuter Mahadbirya Ima Puro Vibhu Nirmayashete Yadamosha Purusha Bhunkter Gunamsho Dasashodasatmaka Solang Krishishta Bhagavan Vachansi Me Shri Krishna Sharanam Sharanagatam Kata Amritam Satata Pibatam Bhakti Vedanta Marga Panktanam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam. Hare Krishna. Welcome again to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So, it is said that whatever activity we do in our devotional life, we do it for the pleasure of Krishna. So Krishna is always blissful, but through our little services, we are trying to increase his pleasure and bliss. So speaking and hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam is also for the pleasure of Krishna. So, with that mood, today let us dive deep into today's verse, which is a beautiful instruction which Swayambhuva Manu is giving to his grandson Dhruva Maharaj. So, we've been seeing that Dhruva Maharaj wanted to avenge the Yakshas. Why? Because one of the powerful Yakshas killed Dhruva Maharaj's brother Uttama. And therefore, there was a big fight that started between Dhruva Maharaj and the Yakshas. And in the process, what happened? Many Yakshas were killed. So at this time, Swayambhuva Manu, that is Dhruva Maharaj's grandfather, who is the first Manu, that is from whom the whole of mankind originates, Swayambhuva Manu, he appears in front of Dhruva and he starts instructing him. He says, don't kill so many yakshas like this. You know, there are so many of them who are not offenders. They did not actually kill your brother. So why are you now killing all of them? So in today's verse, what we see is Swayambhuva Manu is saying that there are so many different varieties of life forms, isn't it? So we all know. So there are human beings, there are different types of animals, there are insects, there are plants. There are so many different forms of living entities. And their suffering or enjoyment, that is credited to different reasons. Now, different theories and different people give different reasons why living entities either suffer or they enjoy during the course of their life. So, what are the reasons they give? They say it may be due to one's karma, which is due to one's own actions. Or it may be due to nature or prakriti, due to one's own intrinsic nature based on who we are, our qualities. It could be because of that. Some say that it is because of time. Time is also Krishna. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he is time himself. And then there are some who say that it is because of one's fate or one's destiny. You know, whatever is destined, that will happen. Whatever is your fate, that will happen. And then some say that it is due to desire, which is karma. Now, in today's purport, Srila Prabhupada elaborates on this beautiful aspect called as desire. Because whenever we hear the word desire, very often, immediately one might put a negative connotation to it. Oh, desire means it's wrong. You know, you should not have any desire. But here, Srila Prabhupada is teaching us that the desire itself is not wrong. It is what we desire. That is what qualifies our desire. So if one is desiring to simply just enjoy for one's own propensities, to just gain a lot of, material things, accumulate, and then just put it for, one's own pleasure, then that kind of a desire is what is condemned. And it is that kind of a desire that keeps us circling around and around in the cycle of birth and death. Whereas when our desires are purified and when we align our desires with the desire of Sri Krishna, and when we want to simply serve and please him, then when we purify our desires through practicing bhakti, then what happens? Srila Prabhupada says, that brings an end to our being circling around in the cycle of birth and death. So that is what Srila Prabhupada says. It stops our wandering in the different species and in the different varieties of life forms. So when we read our scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we constantly hear this, isn't it? That the living entities are a part and parcel of Krishna. So in today's verse also, in the purport we heard, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that just like the sparks of fire, have we seen sometimes when there's a fire in the yajna we see, and sometimes there are some sparks that keep, just coming out like that. So like that, all living entities are a part of Krishna in the spiritual world. But because the living entities desired to enjoy separately from Krishna, we have come into this material world. Because we didn't, for some reason, living entities had their own desire to be the controllers. They didn't want to serve and please Krishna. So when such a desire creeps into the heart and the mind of someone, then that soul falls down to the material world. But at the same time, having come into this material world, somehow by Krishna's mercy, when we find our Guru, when we come into the association of Vaishnavas, and when we get that Bhakti Lata Bij. What is it? The seed of the creeper of devotional service. So when that seed of bhakti is planted in our heart, then what happens? Somehow by our Guru's mercy, by Krishna's mercy, when we take to the path of bhakti, when we start purifying our desires, when we start channelizing our desires for the pleasure of Krishna, so as we keep doing that, then what happens? Krishna takes charge of our life personally, and he takes us back to the spiritual world. He takes us back to his Goloka, Vrindavan Dham, where we can eternally serve Krishna for his pleasure and never ever return into any other form of life in this world. We don't have to come back as, insects or animals or whatever, but we can become those souls that will be eternally aligned with the desire of Krishna. So, now this human form of life, it is the best gift that Krishna has given us. So having wandered through so many different species of life, when we've had so many different desires, ultimately we have come to this human form of life. So the human form of life is like the most upgraded and the updated version of all the life forms. We have our different phones, there's something, S7, S10, this, and then they keep upgrading. And then there is never an end to it. They keep upgrading forever. Whereas Krishna has given us this human form, which is the ultimate level of evolution. But how do we know that? When our consciousness is refined and refined and refined, and when our consciousness evolves to the ultimate state where we realize that we are servants of God, we are servants of Krishna. So that is what is called as Krishna consciousness. So there are probably some new devotees who have come here today. So we might be wondering, what is this Krishna consciousness? So it means that we are refining our consciousness to become and to realize that we are servants of Krishna. We are here in this world to serve and please Krishna and his dear devotees. So when we come to that level of understanding, then what happens? We are using our human life at its optimal level. We are not wasting. So that is what we are striving for. And Srila Prabhupada says here in today's verse that having a desire is a symptom of life. Because without desire, someone is just a dead stone. So having a desire being the symptom of human life, we have to ensure that we are maximizing our potential to align our desires with the desires of the Supreme Lord for his pleasure. So it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that we all have different senses, isn't it, through which we enjoy. We have our eyes, our ears, our nose. The eyes like to see beautiful things, the nose likes to smell fragrant substances, we like to touch. So it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that the eyes that do not see the beautiful form of Krishna is just like the plumes of the peacock feather. On the peacock feather, we see designs like, it looks like the eye. It's just beautiful, that's all. But what's the point of it? Like that, the ears that do not hear about Krishna, those ear holes are just like the holes of a snake. The tongue that does not speak about Krishna or that does not glorify Krishna is merely like the tongue of a frog that simply keeps croaking. A frog just keeps croaking, isn't it? Simply to just attract its mate. So like that, a tongue that does not glorify Krishna is just like the tongue of a frog. The upper part of the body, which may be decorated with a beautiful silk turban, if we do not bow down to Krishna, then that silk turban that is so attractive is just merely a burden. It is useless. The legs that do not walk to the temples of Krishna, or the legs that do not walk to engage in devotional service, is merely like a tree trunk. It is merely like the trunk of a tree. So what does a tree do? It just stands in one place, isn't it? It doesn't move here or there. But there are lessons that we can learn from the tree, which is tolerance, tarorapi sahishnuna. That is there. But at the same time, the trunk of a tree is stationary. So like that, if we do not use our legs to go and serve Krishna, then our legs are useless. And then we may be having beautiful bangles that we like to wear in our hands. But if our hands are not engaged in the service of Krishna, then those ornaments are nothing. They do not mean anything. What is the point of those ornaments? So like that, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear how important it is to engage every sense organ that we have to satisfy the senses of Krishna. So any discussion on desire, it is not complete without speaking about Ambarish Maharaj, which is also very pleasing to Krishna. So when we speak about Krishna's dear devotee, then that is very pleasing to Krishna. So how did Ambarish Maharaj use all his senses to fulfill and to satisfy and to please Krishna? It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Savai mana Krishna padaravindayor vachamsi vaikunta gunanuvarnane karau harer mandiramarjanadishu shrutim chakarachuta satkatodhaye मुकुन्दलिङ्गालय दर्शने दृशौ तत्प्रीत्यगात्र स्पर्शेङ्गसङ्गमम् ग्राणं च तत्पादसरोजसौरभे श्रीमत्तुलस्या रसनां तदर्पिते पादौ हरे क्षेत्रपदानुसर्पणे शिरो ऋषिकेशपदाभिवन्दने कामं च दास्ये न तु कामकामया यतोत्तमश्लोकजनाश्रया Ratihi. So this beautiful verse describes how Ambarish Maharaj engaged all his senses for the pleasure of Krishna. So what did he do? With his mind, he was constantly meditating upon the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayor. Padara vindayor is the lotus feet of Krishna. So he always engaged his mind on meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna. His words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or hearing about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna or the Lord's temples. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of flowers and tulasi offered to the Lord. He engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasada. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord. His head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord 24 hours a day. So in the purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada explains that indeed Maharaj Ambarish never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service in various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. So now when we hear these things, we might be wondering, now how can I engage my senses? You know, Ambarish Maharaj is such a great king, he's such a great devotee. I'm just such a normal, simple person. I still have desires. How do I engage my senses? So now we are going to do a little activity where I want to hear from all of you. So you're going to give me examples on how we can engage each of our senses. So how can we engage our mind in meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna? You tell me. How can we engage our mind in meditating on Krishna? Through meditation. And what is the best form? Chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So simply by chanting, we are constantly thinking about Krishna. So sometimes, we may be doing certain things, but we don't know why we are doing, what is the purpose of doing it. So chanting is one of the best forms of fixing our mind on Krishna. What are the other more different methods that we can engage our mind in serving Krishna? Sorry? Reading Srila Prabhupada's books. So by reading, we are constantly engaging our mind in our scripture. Very nice. Kirtan, wonderful. So by singing Kirtan, we are constantly hearing the Mahamantra. We are constantly praising Krishna. So we are constantly engaging our mind in thinking about Krishna. What else? Yes. Wonderful. So by using our mind and intelligence to serve Krishna with more innovative and newer ways. So he gave a beautiful example of coming up with a new prasada menu. Someone can think, okay, I'm always doing the same thing. Why can't I change? Do something nice and creative. Do something nice and tasty and delicious. All prasada is tasty and delicious. We can think, come up with new recipes, new dishes. Sometimes there's a timetable. Each day, this prasad. We can just change things and say, I'm doing this for Krishna's pleasure. So how can I bring in newness into my service? And the same thing can apply in so many areas of how we can engage our mind and intelligence. For example, making garlands. We can come up with creative ideas. How can I put different petal combinations? Or, for example, now devotees are getting ready to build a new temple for Radha Gopinath. Let's chant a big Hare Krishna Mahamantra for all the devotees who are building the temple for Radha Gopinath. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So like this, there is so much of activities involved, isn't it? How we can use our mind, how we can collect funds, how we can design the temple. So all these are ways in which we can meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna. Then how can we use our words, our speech? Wonderful. So he said that when we speak to devotees, when we speak to new people, when we are preaching, we talk to them about the glories of Krishna, which is what this whole Srimad Bhagavatam class is also about, where we are glorifying Krishna. So when we speak to devotees, we praise about Krishna. That way we are using our words, we are using our tongue. Then, how can we use our hands for Krishna's pleasure? Very nice. By playing different instruments, we can play mridanga, kartal, harmonium. Then what else can we use our hands in the service of Krishna? Making beautiful garlands. So engaging our hands to make garlands for Krishna. Then we're all doing every day. Come on, devotees. Give me examples how we can use our hands for Krishna. Preparing prasadam, cooking. Prabhuji. Cleaning the temple. Yes. Then decorate. Sorry? Someone said something? Massaging? Massaging devotees. Okay. And then dancing in front of Krishna with our hands, different gestures. Dressing the deities, isn't it? So devotees clapping during kirtan. Beautiful. Dressing the deities, offering flowers, cooking. So there are so many different ways in which we can use our hands in the service of Krishna. Then, how can we use our ears in the service of Krishna? Listening to classes, lectures, listening to kirtan. Yes, so different ways we can use our ears. And then even by talking to devotees, so devotee conversations, we can make it all centered around Krishna instead of just talking about some mundane topics which are useless. So that way we are engaging our speech and our hearing. Then, sense of touch. What did we hear from Ambarish Maharaj? Yes. When we touch Tulsi Maharani, beautiful. Then, when we bow down before the Lord, okay, when we bow down before Krishna, we are doing Dandavat Pranams, isn't it? We are engaging our whole body in just falling down like rod in front of Krishna, in front of Srila Prabhupada, in front of Vaishnavas. We are saying that my entire body is surrendered unto you, O Krishna. And then sometimes we see Vaishnavas, devotees giving big hugs to each other, isn't it? Where we express our love for each other. So by doing that, we are using our sense of touch for the service of Krishna. Then, how can we use our sense of smell for the pleasure of Krishna? So we smell the flowers that are offered to Krishna. We smell tulsi leaf that is offered to Krishna. We smell prasadam. Okay. So after the bhoga is offered to Krishna and then when it comes on your plate, yes. Okay, before that we don't smell the prasadam. Okay, so after it's offered to Krishna, then with all your sense of smell, you can smell the beautiful fragrance that's coming out of the prasadam that was offered to Krishna. Wonderful. Then, how can we use our legs for the pleasure of Krishna? Okay, I'm hearing so many. Yes? Going for book distribution. Wonderful. So we walk, isn't it? We walk door to door. We go dancing for Krishna. Then walking to the temples. Yeah? So many different ways we can engage. So that way we are constantly immersed in engaging our desires aligned with the desires of Krishna. So that is a way to purify our desires. So Sri Krishna says that once we keep serving the Lord like this, Sri Krishna in the form of Lord Ram, what does he say? Sakradeva prapanno yas tavasmiti cha yachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadam etad vratam mama. So Lord Ram says that if one surrenders unto me sincerely, saying that my Lord, from this day I am fully surrendered unto you, then I always give him protection. So this is the Lord's vow for us, that once we surrender to Krishna and once we take shelter of his lotus feet and once we want to satisfy and please him constantly, then Krishna takes charge of our life. He gives us protection. He makes us fearless. He gives us the strength that no matter what, I will take care of you. And it is said that Krishna is Satyam Vratam Satyaparam Trisatyam Satyasya Yonim Nihitam Cha Satye Satyasya Satyamrita Satyanetram Satyatmakam Tvam Sharanam Prapanna. So the Lord never deviates from his vow. So once Shri Krishna gives us a promise that he is there as our protector, as our dear lover, he never deviates from his vow. That is what is called as Satya Vrata. He keeps his vow and he is the absolute truth. That is why Krishna is called as the absolute truth, because he is always truthful and he is the truth that we are trying to reach, we are trying to understand, we are trying to serve. So Krishna gives us the intelligence by which we can constantly serve him, by which we can constantly please him. So Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So as we keep serving Krishna, what happens? Krishna gives us the intelligence by which we can serve him more and more. But to sustain our bhakti, to keep on track, it's very easy to start something and it's also very easy to give up something. But to sustain, but to keep practicing bhakti, what do we need? We need sadhu sangha. We need the association of devotees. We need the mercy of our Guru. Without our Guru's mercy, we cannot approach Krishna. We cannot try to directly serve Krishna. But it is only through our Guru Kripa. When the Guru is pleased with us, then he helps us to serve Krishna more and more. So it is said that pure devotion is attained by sincerely serving the pure devotee of the Lord. So our acharyas explain that how do we identify ourselves? Gopi bhartu pada kamalayor dasa dasanu das. So that is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu identified himself, which is what we are also trying to follow, which is what my Guru Maharaj very strongly insists, and he wants us to constantly feel that we are a servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis of Vrindavana. So like that, we keep serving the servants of the servant of the servant, then Krishna is pleased with us. We cannot directly jump to Krishna. So in this whole process of purifying our desires, it is a very beautiful channel. It is a scientific path. When we serve devotees, when devotees are pleased, then their mercy, their blessings, all this helps us to strengthen our bhakti and it helps us to go towards Krishna quickly and more swiftly. So this is said even by Jhadabharat, to King Rahugana. So when King Rahugana asked Jhadabharat, how can I attain pure love for Krishna? How did you attain this Paramahamsa stage? There, Jada Bharat, he's a great Brahmana who explained to Maharaj Rahugana. What did he say? Rahuganaita tapasanayati na chejyaya nirvapanad grihadva na chandasanaiva jalagni suryair vina mahatpadarajobhishekam. So he says, O King Rahugana, the perfectional stage of devotional service or the Paramahamsa stage of life cannot be attained unless one is blessed by the dust of the feet of great devotees. It is never attained by tapasya, austerity, the Vedic worshipping process, acceptance of the renounced order of life, the discharge of the duties of household life, the chanting of the Vedic hymns, or the performance of penances in the hot sun, within cold water, or before the blazing fire. So what this verse is explaining is, one might be doing so many different severe austerities, and they might think they have given up everything in this life. I'm renounced, I'm this, I'm that, I'm going to do this austerity, that austerity. Yes, all that is important for us in our path of bhakti, but just that is not suffice. Just that is not enough for us to attain pure bhakti for Krishna. But what is the most important ingredient is the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees who are serving Krishna. So what that means is that we have to serve devotees who are engaged in serving Krishna. So when we do that, when we keep serving our Gurudev with the sincere heart, then when our Guru is pleased, then we can align our desires with Krishna's desires. So it is said that the mind is like an impetuous horse that even persons who have regulated their senses and breath cannot control. Those in this world who try to tame the uncontrolled mind, but who abandon the feet of their spiritual master, encounter hundreds of obstacles in their practice. O Lord, they are like merchants on a boat in the ocean who have failed to employ a helmsman. So without having a guru, it is like we are just sailing on a boat without having a boatman to take our boat. So when we serve our Guru, when we get our Guru's mercy, then we know that we are on track in serving Krishna in the right way. So this is this beautiful verse. Vijita rishi kabayu biradanta manasturagam yayi hayatanti yantu matilolamupaya kidaha vyasana shatanvita samavahaya guroscharanam vanija ivaja santya krita karnadara jaladau. So we can constantly pray to Krishna that we get the mercy of our Guru. We get Krishna's mercy. So that through that, what happens? We attract Srimati Radharani's mercy. As we keep serving devotees who are then going up to Srimati Radharani, who is the pleasure-giving potency of Krishna. So Srimati Radharani is constantly striving to please Krishna, to increase his bliss, to increase his pleasure. So when we keep serving devotees, when we keep serving our Guru Dev, when we keep serving Srila Prabhupada, by doing that, we can slowly purify our desires, and by pleasing Srimati Radharani, by pleasing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, ultimately we can please Krishna. So that is what Swayambhuva Manu is instructing Dhruva Maharaj, that there may be so many different life forms, but desire is one thing that is keeping us wandering in different forms of life. But when our desire is inclined to pleasing Krishna, then that cuts our material life and it takes us to the spiritual world. So it's almost 9 o'clock, so I'll end here with just one single line of a song where we can ask for the mercy of our Guru. Because without the mercy of our Guru, it is hard for us to advance in our bhakti. So we pray for our Guru's kripa so that we can always please Krishna. Gurudev kripa bindu diya koro he dase trinape ka ati hina. Gurudev kripa bindu diya koro he dase trinape ka ati hina. Sakala sahane bal diya koro निज माने स्पृहहीना. सकल सहने बल दिया करो निज माने स्पृहहीना. गुरुदेव कृपा बिंदु दिया करो ए दासे तृणापे का अतिहीना. तृणापे का अतिहीना. तृणापे का अतिहीना. O spiritual master, give to this servant just one drop of mercy. I am lower than a blade of grass. Give me all help. Give me strength. Let me be as you are, without material desires or aspirations. If you examine me, you will find no qualities. Your mercy is all that I am made of. If you are not merciful unto me, I can only weep, and I will not be able to maintain my life. When will such mercy fall to this one who is weak and devoid of intelligence? Allow me to be with you. Jai Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Gaura Bhaktavrinda ki Jai. Any questions or comments? All yes? Yeah. Mhm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the question is, what if one has material desires, and but later on, if one uses that in the service of Krishna, will Krishna still accept? Yes, Krishna will accept, which is what is the whole process of bhakti. Now, you gave the example of gambling or winning a lottery, getting money, and then using the money in the service of Krishna. So, what Krishna will do, he will purify your desire in such a way that in future you will not do any gambling. In future, you will not wait for any lotto, any big money, lotteries, sorry. So in future, you will find a right way of getting money in the dharmic way by working, by getting good money, by using all your skills for the service of Krishna. You will make a lot of money, and then you will still use that money in Krishna's service. So that is how Krishna purifies our desires. So initially, no one is perfect. Everyone will have different desires. But Krishna purifies our desires in such a way that you will not have any more of such desires, but you will start serving Krishna completely. So then Krishna is very favorable to you. Okay? Jai. Hare Krishna. Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Thank you. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath's dear devotees ki jai.